Kevin. I'm the creator of the Bible Artist website and podcast, which this is. I'm joined here by my friend Victor. Victor, do you want to share anything about yourself?
Sure. I'm a video producer in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm also a writer. I've got a book I'm publishing a chapter at a time on my website, Vic Digital. Substack.com/Vic Digital. It's called The Sojourners. I'm calling it a cross between Game of Thrones and Narnia, and it's about four boys who come from another world into our world and learn about Jesus, and then eventually bring all that knowledge back to their world where Jesus does not exist or is not known. So, but this first book is the story about how they come over to our world and experience an entire new way of thinking about the world and who the creator of the world is.
Awesome. So yeah, Victor and I, we are going to be discussing the teaser for The Chosen Season 5, which was just released earlier this morning. So I've got a bunch of still images from the trailer, nearly all of the shots I've got an image from. And so we'll be going through shot by shot, kind of just giving our impressions, talking through things that we stand out, maybe predictions, things that we think are worth paying attention to. Just kind of doing some analysis of the trailer. We're both fans of The Chosen. That's how we actually got to know each other. Victor discovered the Bible Artist website. By the way, while I'm talking about the website, I do have a blog post looking at the trailer as well, if you're looking for kind of a more blog format. And I've got a variety of other articles and posts discussing Chosen Season 5. I've got one going through the different events of Holy Week. I've got one looking at kind of some of the key themes that I'm expecting in the new season, one looking at some of the potential controversies that we may see in the upcoming season. So lots of content on The Chosen Season 5 and even more content on all the previous seasons if you are interested in The Chosen and if you're new to the Bible Artist. You can sign up for emails, which come maybe weekly or maybe a couple times a month, or you could consider supporting me through my Buy Me a Coffee account. That's how I'm able to kind of continue to produce the content that I am. Oh, and if you aren't subscribed to this channel and you're just discovering it for the first time, please, do the subscribe and like and all that stuff. But with all that said and done, let's jump into discussing the trailer. Before we get into kind of like shot by shot sorts of stuff, Victor, just kind of general impressions. What do you think of the trailer?
I liked it. It was very, I would say, muted and melancholy. Obviously, is kind of what the theme of that week is going to end up being. And it was a lot more self-contained than previous seasons have been. It's all going to take place in more or less one location. So, just from a spectacle standpoint, it wasn't as spectacular as far as the variety of types of shots. But as we're going to see, some of the shots they do have are pretty spectacular of the city.
Yeah. On my end, that's kind of what stuck out to me. I think I agree with you. Like we didn't get like kind of a broad range of shots from the season. Like I feel like what we'll see is there are kind of two focal points to the trailer. There's the Last Supper focal point. There's the kind of temple related focal point. And then there's a few shots thrown in there to kind of add color and get us like interested in what else is going to happen. But we definitely are not getting like stuff from all the different episodes of the season. This is probably like mostly from like I'd say like probably 4 episodes maybe of the season. But also what I really loved about the trailer is just kind of the composition of the shots. I've noticed that a lot of these shots like they're like so like symmetrical. The framing of it is so beautiful. So how it like kind of focuses our attention on Jesus or on whoever else is kind of the center of attention in each shot. You can see that already in this shot here of the Last Supper, how like you've got the disciples on either side of the table, you've got Jesus right there in the center, and regardless of like whether this is like the most like historically plausible setup for what the table would have looked like and all of that, it's like, yeah, I just think it's beautiful. Like it looks like something, I could see like a piece of art that kind of has the same sort of composition. And there's several shots like that that we'll look at. So that's something that really stood out to me, and that I kind of enjoyed about it. But yeah, I agree with you that it's not as kind of like eye poppy as like some of the ones for like season 4 were like really, that's like a lot of like kind of moments like that, or yeah.
I just kind of feel it just shows a lot more confidence in themselves, that they don't have to do that as much. It's not that I don't think that they have the shots, it's that they are showing us what's going to be important. And I've just seen that in Dallas Jenkins, just his overall growth as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
In that, like, I don't think you've seen the best Christmas pageant ever, but my first takeaway from that is like every shot in there looked like a real film, as opposed to somebody trying to make a film that looks like a Hollywood film, which is, it's kind of a weird distinction to make, but to me, it just, I feel like I can tell the difference when somebody's just trying very hard as opposed to somebody that truly gets it. And I think that's where Dallas Jenkins is. And I see that a lot in all these shots on the trailers, that these are shots from a filmmaker that understands what he's doing and doesn't feel like he has to show off or emulate anybody in particular. He's doing his own thing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's dive into some of these shots and some of these images that we get in the trailer. So like we discussed just a moment ago, we start off with the Last Supper as kind of the frame for this trailer. So we get Last Supper for the first few shots of the trailer, and for the last few shots of the trailer. So it kind of bookends everything, and that's why the trailer, it's called the Last Supper teaser, and that even though like we actually don't get like a ton of the Last Supper, it kind of by like bookending things, it becomes one of kind of the focal points for the entire trailer. So yeah, anything kind of that stuck out to you about the Last Supper itself here? Let's see if I can.
I think just from what I see, I don't see Judas in any of these shots, so this must be after that particular part. But they all seem a lot more melancholy too, so they've heard some stuff at this point.
Yeah, so this strikes me as probably like into the kind of the discourse that Jesus gives, or this might be like could be the Eucharist, the breaking of the bread, and this is my body, that kind of thing. Yeah, it is noticeable. Judas's place would be right here next to Jesus. So we've got John in his special place. He'll play a role of like kind of leaning into Jesus, asking him some questions for Peter. Yeah, I do think it's interesting that Peter is kind of at the far end of the table. I wonder kind of what they'll make of that, like if there's going to be kind of a story behind that, because you would, based on kind of the narrative of The Chosen so far, you would kind of think that Peter would be like going for one of those close seats next to Jesus, but maybe he's like kind of applying the whole Jesus is teaching about not seeking the first seat in the banquet or whatever, and maybe we're actually supposed to kind of like be like looking askance at Judas for trying to be kind of right next to Jesus in the scene. I don't know. But lots of candlelight. They don't have like one long table, kind of like the famous Last Supper artwork, but you still get kind of a little bit of a feel of kind of Da Vinci or just some of the other depictions that we've seen of the scene.
Like you said, this does look like very artistic, and
yeah,
it looks like it's going to feel iconic for anyone that watches it. This will be kind of how we see things or visualize this for a while.
Yep. So here on one side of the table, we've got Simon Z, we've got Matthew. I always felt like they kind of missed an opportunity to give them more time together. So I wonder if we'll get a little bit of time with Simon Z and Matthew. Is that that's the new Philip, and then Nathaniel there. Other side, we got Peter at the far end. Andrew's next to him, obviously. Little James, and then I'm guessing that's Big James next to him, or maybe that's Thomas. Could probably tell, but
I think it's Thomas.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and then do you have anything else on Last Supper, or should we move forward to?
Well, just like this kind of an overall thought for the whole season, because we're only going to be spanning about 4 days. Because I read an article from USA Today, I don't know if you saw that, where they kind of said it was going to end before the arrest.
Yep.
So everything's going to have to happen. You know, there's going to be a lot of things that have to happen. Actually, the whole thing's going to have to happen in a short span of time.
Yeah.
So I'm just, and I think we kind of talked about this before. It's like, I mean, I feel we're probably going to get a ton of flashbacks throughout these next 2 seasons. So I can even see, especially during this scene here, where, you know, as we kind of focus in on each person, maybe they each get their own little memory, you know, little short scene where whatever's being said kind of resonates with them in a certain way, a certain memory. So through all of these things, we kind of will get, because we're going to need to have some kinds of uplifting moments during this, because it's gonna be dark. I mean, especially during this part of it, we're getting to the end, where it's just going to be dark from that point on. It's just going to be. There's no way they can have an unrelentingly grim entire season or 2 seasons. So there's got to be ways to bring it up, and I think that's kind of how they'll do it, is where we can see each character getting, you know, a special moment, probably with Jesus or with each other.
That makes me think of how the Passion of the Christ kind of did it. We get several like flashbacks throughout the Last Supper scene in the Passion, if I'm remembering right. So yeah, and that with them, like there wasn't as much development of all the different like smaller apostles. So there'd be a lot more room for doing that kind of thing. So do you think Last Supper? I think it has to be either episode 7 or episode 8 if we're not going to get the arrest. I could see either. I'm leaning towards episode 7, and then maybe episode 8 is like the garden, and like maybe with like Judas like starting to bring the mob or whatever to arrest Jesus or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I would almost think you'd have to. I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly how many dramatic moments that would be, you know, appropriate for a TV show that there would be after the Last Supper, before the arrest. Is there enough for a whole episode there, or would the Last Supper have to be part of that?
So with the garden, you've got like that's with like Jesus, you know, his praying, like Lord, you know, he prays several times, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. The disciples are like falling asleep, and Jesus is like encouraging them to pray that they don't fall into temptation. So, you know, assuming that they do some expansion, which they're going to have to do with a lot of the different scenes in the show, unless they want to keep the garden for next season, I think that the garden could be its own episode, because I feel like they're probably going to do Last Supper as almost like a bottle episode, where it's like, because there's so much that happens during the Last Supper. You know, the upper room discourse is super long. We've got Jesus washing the people's feet. You know, they're really going to want to probably give some time.
All of that's going to need to be shown. I mean, you've never had this opportunity to show all of this before, so that would be.
I could almost see it almost being like 2 episodes. There's just like a lot that goes on between all of the different gospel accounts. It would be kind of hard, though, I think, like dramatically to to break up the Last Supper, but at the very least, I think it definitely could contain its an entire episode of its own. So
I mean,
so
you
then
could end the first half of it with Judas leaving, you know,
that's true, because
and then
the foot washing happens before then, so that could be kind of like a focal point. And then we have like, the disciples like questioning like who's going to betray you, that kind of stuff. And then yeah, Judas leaving. I could potentially see that as a break, and then have a second half which is focused on Lord's Supper. Jesus kind of giving instructions, probably giving this line that we get in this first scene, like, listen, I'm going to tell you about the things that are about to happen. So yeah, that's possible. In which case, that could potentially be episode 6, 7, and the garden could be 8. Or potentially you have the second half of the Last Supper kind of bleed into them going out into the garden, because there are aspects of the upper room discourse where it sounds like they've kind of like at one point Jesus says, let's go. And so there's maybe an indication that like he's kind of like talking to them kind of on the way. So that's possible that we that it kind of bleeds into them going into the Garden of Gethsemane. But yeah, probably somewhere around 6, 7, and 8 of the season. Yeah.
having just done the David season 1,
Mm.
it's interesting just trying to see. It's like how complex this particular season of The Chosen is going to be, to try to spread it out over 8 episodes and make each episode have a beginning, middle, and end, and
Yep.
all the dramatic stuff you expect from an episode of TV.
Yeah, because with David, we had a very different task where, our show covered what could have been like several months of David's life, or even potentially several years. Within the show, we kind of treat it as probably more likely several months. But and by the way, if anyone's listening and you haven't been tuning in, we Victor and another one of our friends, Chad, we kind of we created we discussed how we would create a show based on the story of David's time in the wilderness, but not focusing on David as our kind of main point of view character, but focusing on some of his men that are following him, kind of like how The Chosen follows. It focuses more on the disciples as opposed to having Jesus as the main character. You can check that out on the YouTube channel later on after this broadcast, but just giving that for context. But yeah, I agree with you. It makes me appreciate kind of the complexities of what they're doing, and especially just thinking of how they're gonna have to kind of stretch the season to focus on just these 4 days of Jesus's life. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, see, I've never seen a TV show try to do anything like this before.
Yeah,
except maybe the show 24.
24.
That was a different kind of day in the life.
I mean, I feel like season 5 season 6 is almost going to be like 24 level, where it's like, I mean, it sounds like they're probably going to do an approach where they'll probably do kind of like point of view episodes, as opposed to doing like dun dun dun, like let's show like every second of the day. But yeah, it's interesting. I like that they're kind of doing something different, as opposed to there are a lot of different ways they could have done this. So yeah, anything else on Last Supper before we move on?
Good.
So yeah, like we said, the Last Supper is one main focal point of the episode, and the other one they kind of swing to right after leaving the Last Supper. So we immediately get a shot of Jesus. He's clearly got the whip. This is clearly the temple. The temple authorities are there, kind of in that main gate, and he's in a confrontational kind of setup with them. Once again, beautiful kind of composition and framing of the conflict, and within like filming, kind of where people are in the frame. It kind of communicates things to us about like power and things like that. So whenever someone is like standing up higher within a shot, that kind of communicates a sense of power or superiority. And when someone is lower, it can either, like, if we're looking down on them, then it can create a sense of like fear or anxiety. But here we're straight on looking at the situation, so it more gives us the sense of Jesus as kind of like standing up to uh, the people who are higher up. Kind of creates a, yeah, like an underdog sort of vibe in this shot. Yeah, anything that sticks out to you about kind of this initial frame of Jesus's confrontation with the temple leaders?
Not that frame. I'm sure we'll have more in the next couple frames.
Yeah, I'm guessing actually that this is probably going to be later on after Jesus has been doing the whipping. I'm guessing that this is like the temple leaders confronting him and saying, "What do you think you're doing?" And Jesus is like turning around to face them or whatever. But it doesn't really matter because, like, the trailer is telling its own story. So the trailer is going to pick things out of order and kind of use them to tell us a story about kind of what the show is about, even if those specific images aren't temporally
Right.
kind of in the right order. Victor probably knows a lot more about this kind of thing than I do from all your work. So here's another shot. Seems like it's from that same scene, because we got the temple authorities standing up there, but it seems like Jesus has now turned his back on them and is walking away, and now all the crowd is facing their. Seems like they're looking at something. Maybe they're just looking at Jesus, but it also seems possible they're looking at something else.
Yeah, it looks like, just looking at the scene kind of as it plays out, it looks like they're looking up past him
Yeah.
to this either side.
So
Trying to think of what else that would be at this point.
yeah, I was curious about that too. I wonder if it could it be
No, I'm
like
sure. Hold on.
Romans or
Are you sure that's not just the reverse of the wide shot? Because it is a different backdrop behind him. There's pillars behind him in the close up, and those pillars are
oh, you're
not in
right.
this shot.
Okay, so maybe it's
So that could be him
okay.
going up the steps, maybe.
Okay, yeah. Now that you're saying
they're
that,
so
I
they're
think
all
you're
looking.
right.
They're all looking at the
So this is like a different set
temple
of
ladies.
temple leaders here. Like maybe he was kind of confronting them, and then these guys are like they're on the way out, and he's gonna have to face them. Yeah, now that you say that, I think you're right, because in this shot everybody's facing that way, which attracts
somebody else is talking to Jesus. So
probably a Pharisee or Caiaphas or someone is like challenging him. I could see this potentially being like if Jesus has done like the whole destroy this spot or this temple and I'll raise it up in 3 days, someone could be like calling him out for that. What sign do you show us to show your authority to do these things? Or it could be some sort of kind of confrontation after he starts whipping people in the temple. This is I think this is definitely a different shot, even though same setting, because it seems like, as opposed to kind of this like long aisle of people, we've got like a circle of people and Jesus is there in the middle. I'm guessing this is some sort of like confrontation, like a debate with Pharisees or Sadducees, because throughout Holy Week, Jesus has several confrontations. I even thought it could be possible that this is like the woman caught in adultery, and like the crowd surrounding Jesus. But yeah, some sort of confrontation happening within the temple would be my read on that image.
Yeah, I think the trailer wants us to think this is all part of the same sequence.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Which like, or like it's kind of just kind of presenting this as like
Right.
all kind of one piece or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we've got some of the disciples reacting. Big James is a little worried about something. This door here, it looks like they're probably like kind of standing probably by like some of the doors in the temple looking on while Jesus is probably having one of his confrontations. Not too much to note there, I don't think.
There's going to be a lot of confrontations and a lot of it's going to be kind of hard just to guess at which one's which just from
Yep.
the timeline.
Shmuel, I think that's Yanni. I can't remember which of the Pharisees this guy is, but they're right here. It doesn't look like they're actually actively engaged in the debate. It looks like they're just more kind of watching. But I definitely think that we'll see all of them debating Jesus at some point because he's got plenty of debates to happen. So if you think of the timeline of the trailer, we keep like jumping back in time. So we start in the Last Supper, then we jump back in time to the Jesus cleansing the temple, and now we're jumping back in time again to Jesus's like first approach to Jerusalem. He's on the donkey. We got the crowd of people, and we'll see him enter the crowd. Everybody's got the palms up. Everybody's excited. Everything looking good here. Mother Mary's excited. All the disciples are feeling good. So at least we'll kind of start the season on a emotional high note.
Those are shots. We actually got those shots from the end of the last season, though, didn't we? Didn't we get at least some of it?
We had him preparing to, like, he was approaching. Jerusalem was like pretty far in the distance last season. Here, like we
saw them picking up their palms and stuff.
Yes, yeah. So we saw people in the city getting ready, and we saw Jesus kind of set out from, I don't know, like a mile away or something. But here, like we've got him like actually approaching the city gates, actually met by the crowds. So the crowds will be singing Hosanna, and that'll probably spark the first conflict of the season because some of the Pharisees rebuke Jesus and are like, why are you letting the people address you as, the son of David? And Jesus is like, if they didn't, the stones would cry out. And, it's as the scriptures say, out of the mouth of babes, you've appointed praise for yourself or something like that. So, Jesus, this is like, he's beyond the point of like hiding his messianic identity. He actually kind of accepts the praise that they offer him. And that's, the people, they've heard about what he did for Lazarus. And so this is kind of spilling out of season 4. And this is one of kind of the first events that is really going to kind of, we already saw the Sanhedrin starting to plot against Jesus, but this is going to really kind of put the target on his back as he accepts this praise. And then obviously the confrontation in the temple and Jesus using the whip in the temple, that's going to be kind of his final nail in the coffin that really makes them go ballistic.
So I like how they're. So I like how we can see the Roman soldiers in the shot, kind of accompanying them.
That's a good point. Yeah, so they're kind of watching things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it's possible that this shot isn't from that scene or that episode, but definitely like the trailer wants us to be thinking of it as Pilate looking on Jesus entering the city, like feeling a little nervous, as he kind of watches what's going on. That's kind of the vibe that I get from how the trailer is presenting this shot.
I mean, they should have that shot in the show if they don't.
Yeah.
You kind of need him, just like, that's a king or the leader seeing a king arriving. That's got to be
make you feel a little
challenging to him.
insecure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because we're not going to get the actual arrest and Jesus's trial before Pilate in this season, the show needs to give Pilate some stuff to do to kind of bridge between season 4 and his big scenes, which are going to be in season 6. So kind of having his reaction to Jesus coming in, having him kind of worrying about the situation in Jerusalem as Jesus is stirring things up. We'll probably get several scenes involving Pilate kind of worrying about what's going on.
And they're also going to have to kind of set up, I guess, what Pilate's take on the whole thing is. I've seen this take, it seems like they're trying to make him, I guess, more wishy-washy than previous, more militaristic versions of Pilate have been. So I think to do that, you'll need to set it up more, I think.
Which
previous things have.
It fits with kind of the actual gospel text where Pilate is like actually thinking that Jesus isn't guilty, but he kind of gets pushed into condemning him by the crowd. So the show, it seems like they want that feel where it's not that Pilate wanted to kill Jesus the entire time and this was just like a good occasion for him to do it. It seems like they're setting him up as this person who's kind of weak or is worried about kind of controlling the city without kind of creating the need for a major clampdown. And so, so they'll definitely, like you said, kind of need to build up kind of his insecurities, his anxieties, and help us to understand why kind of the Bible portrays him as not convinced that Jesus was guilty, but willing to hand him over. And then from Pilate, we get another one of Jesus's enemies. I'm pretty sure that this is Caiaphas, without his kind of ceremonial ephod, which we've been discussing the ephod a lot, but he doesn't have it in this shot. But I think that's the Caiaphas actor, unless I'm mistaken. This looks like a nighttime scene. He's probably kind of doing some conniving and scheming. Maybe this is when Judas is first brought to him to make plans, because we're going to get him pretty soon.
Well,
yep.
In the next shot, but that doesn't look like it's the same shoulder though.
Oh, you think it's the same shoulder, or you do?
No, I don't think it's the same shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not necessarily thinking these are from like the same scene, but like at least the show is like creating that association with these shots. Season 4 kind of hinted at a relationship between Judas and Shmuel, who both reacted badly to Jesus, like kind of his post Lazarus meal, where he allowed Mary to break the alabaster vase and pour the expensive ointment on his feet, which Judas saw as wasteful, and Shmuel was offended by Jesus kind of receiving the praise from her when she actually like praised to him directly. And yet at the same time, both of them have a little bit of like, they believe some stuff about Jesus, or they think that like they want him to be successful, but they just want his success to look like what they think it should. And so it seems like Shmuel is going to kind of play a role in bringing Judas over into the plot against Jesus. I could potentially see that even being kind of partially inadvertent, where Shmuel maybe doesn't think that they're using Judas to to capture Jesus so they can kill him. Maybe Shmuel thinks, we're all just gonna like get together and try to persuade Jesus to do something differently or whatever, because he genuinely seems kind of torn about how to think about Jesus.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what Shmuel's overall story is going to be. Because like he's clearly a conflicted character. He's not one of the bad guys. He's somebody that has, he's sincere in his concerns, whatever those are. And so whatever that journey he's going to go on, I mean, it's kind of at the moment paralleling Judas in a way, in that he's picked the wrong horse to go with. Obviously Judas has got to have his own fate that he's going to deal with. But I was trying to think of what could they do with Shmuel that would be different enough. Like who's he supposed to represent ultimately?
I almost feel
is
like
he going to repent? Is he going to?
Yeah, I almost feel like Judas and Shmuel might be kind of like opposite pictures. Like Judas starts out on Jesus's team, but like he kind of he's like he has his own kind of. Initially, he thinks he's on board, and then as he moves along, he realizes more and more that like he's not fully on board, that he's got kind of a different vision, and eventually he kind of ends up betraying Jesus, even though like he still feels some sympathy, and he ends up feeling a lot of regret for it. Whereas like maybe Shmuel, he starts off very opposed to Jesus, but as the show has progressed, he started to probably most importantly question his own side, as he's seen like he's definitely not at ease with the other Pharisees, seeing kind of all of their ostentatiousness and their ambition, and that really kind of concerns him. And he also over time has come to see Jesus as being kind of more sincere than he realized, and not just as a kind of a deceiver or whatever. And so it would be interesting if maybe kind of by the end, maybe by kind of the crucifixion scene, he's regretting the part that he's played in betraying Jesus to his death, which would be horrible if like at the crucifixion he finally like gets it, but it's too late, and he realizes that he's played a important role in killing Jesus, the Messiah.
Well, I think that would be a perfect, like I say, kind of like a balance to Judas, where he can think, I've got Jesus's blood in my hands just as much as Judas does. I'm responsible for, obviously they're setting him up for delivering Judas to people, and he's intimately involved in the events of the betrayal. But where Judas, he went through it all, and then he went and hanged himself. And that's always been a discussion among, me and my friends. Like, I mean, would there have been redemption for Judas had he gone to seeking, redemption for that? We always said yes. He just did not do that.
Yeah.
That salvation was there for him as well, even though he was the person that directly betrayed Jesus. So this could be a way they show, someone else who's right there with him that can have the same level of guilt and say, no, I'm going to, ask for forgiveness, or I'm going to admit my sin and my crime and seek Jesus's redemption.
Yeah, that would be really good. The only thing, if anything, I feel like Shmuel's arc, there's a possibility of it running into Quintus's arc if Quintus ends up making a redemption turn, which I think is possible. Not for sure. They could definitely have Quintus go down being a villain to the end. But
I think he's gonna have a redemptive.
I think he's probably the soldier who looks on Jesus and says, truly this is the Son of God. I know some people think it's Atticus. I feel like they're so careful about kind of titles and stuff like that I can't see them like being kind of careless about that. And like going out of their way to make Quintus into a centurion, and having Atticus be something else. So yeah, but I think that the two characters are obviously very different, and so yeah, I think it would still be fine. And they'll be going through like very different kind of struggles and things post Jesus. Quintus will have to deal with Thomas, which will be a really interesting arc for him. Kimberly in the chat is saying she's still counting on it being Atticus. I think it's totally possible that Atticus becomes a believer. I just don't think that he's going to be that person unless they're just kind of intentionally doing a misdirect for us. But it's possible. Yeah. Okay, and then so we've kind of got like some nighttime scenes, and that's kind of I think kind of what transitions us into this scene, which it's not clear immediately, but it's definitely Jesus looking down on the temple. We'll get a clearer shot of him in a minute. And he's seeing kind of all this pageantry and stuff going on. And based on kind of the narrative that the trailer is giving to us, it seems like this is probably the night of Palm Sunday. So he's had his triumphal entry, and then he comes back. He sees the temple at night. He probably is kind of looking on some of the problems in the temple, kind of mourning over it, and then we'll see him make the whip in a moment. So it's possible again that in terms of the actual plot of the season itself, that this is actually a scene that happens afterward or whatever. But as far as like kind of the story that the trailer is telling us, this seems to be like that's the role that this is playing, is like we're seeing Jesus kind of look on the temple. He's sad.
Like in the shot you just had up there, you see a lot of what looks like commerce going on in the temple.
Yeah, and probably kind of empty kind of religiosity and stuff like that. But maybe also like a mixture of like there's good and bad. There's I'm sure that the singing is going to be beautiful, but then there's probably a bunch of like not so beautiful things that are going on, and Jesus is looking on all of that, and he's like, this isn't how it's supposed to be, and so I'm going to go do something about it tomorrow.
Right.
Another shot of Shmuel looking very torn up. So these next few shots, Jesus is looking sad, and then we see several people who are having lots of feels. So we got Shmuel. So this makes me think that he's definitely regretting what he's doing or the part he's playing. Mary, this looks like it's probably at the Last Supper, and she's probably hearing Jesus talk about his death or whatever. But from the perspective of the trailer, that's not really important. And then we've got Coffney, and that's Thomas, right? He's kind of got a weird expression, but so Thomas and Coffney have another altercation in the marketplace, and Coffney's got his back up there, who kind of forces him to go. So I definitely think Coffney is going to play a role, probably as one of Jesus's accusers in his trial. But he'll probably, I bet we're going to get kind of a bit more with like Thomas and kind of the relationship there and stuff going on with them. You have any other thoughts on them, or?
I'm just in that shot where you see Coffney and Thomas. There's a guy that's like looking on at them, trying to figure out if.
Yeah, his face is kind of covered right now, but he's right there.
Sure.
Are you looking at the image separately?
Yeah, I'm just got the trailer up on the screen. I'm looking at.
Is he? I didn't recognize him immediately, I don't think, but is he anybody that you recognize?
I mean, maybe Simon the Zealot. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
But not. I mean, he looks like he's got too much hair for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's clearly that guy looks like he's supposed to be semi-important.
Something.
He could just be somebody in there. Yeah. But, it looks like they're, Thomas and Coffney this is like
Almost like a fight or something.
a breakup. Yeah, it's like maybe
Yeah.
Thomas is like, I'm not going to do what you want to do, kind of thing. Whatever their storyline is.
Oh, maybe
they're probably, go ahead.
So, like, one of my theories is that the reason that people don't that the other disciples don't realize that Judas is the betrayer that Jesus is hinting at is that they're all going to think Thomas is the betrayer. And so I wonder if actually they'll have Thomas like go part of the way, or where like Coffney is like trying to like pressure him into giving some sort of testimony against Jesus. And maybe early on we'll have Thomas like actually considering it, but then he ultimately chooses to like turn him down or something. Do you think that could be
his expression? Thomas's expression was like he was just asked or told to do something and he absolutely doesn't want to do it or is horrified at it. And this is like their I'm not with you guys anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, don't come back kind of thing if you're not going to be with us.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have kind of like Thomas is like the plan A, and then when he fails, then Judas ends up getting pulled in, and Thomas also still ends up being kind of a fall guy almost, that the other disciples assume is the real traitor. And then Mary's sad. It occurred to me that she's almost going to be kind of like a Cassandra from like classical Greek poetry and stuff, where it's like this figure who has a sense of like impending doom about and what's going to happen, but she kind of has no power to actually change things, and she just has to kind of suffer and see the doom that she's been worrying about unfold, because it seems like more than kind of like any of the other disciples in kind of the Chosen's take on things, Mary gets that she may not get like exactly what's happening, but she has a better sense of kind of the what's coming down the pike. So she seems like really distraught in this scene.
She doesn't have a lot actually in the Bible during this stretch of time, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Where specifically we can attribute to her.
Yeah, not during. So she shows up at the crucifixion, whereas most of the disciples won't be there actually, and then at like the tomb itself, but she isn't specifically mentioned. So that doesn't mean that they won't like create work for her to do though. So. And then, we get Jesus working on fashioning his whip here himself. So within kind of the narrative of the episode, like if we skip over some of these shots, we've got Jesus looking at the temple, and then Jesus making his whip. So it definitely feels like that's like kind of the narrative that they're telling. Jesus saw how bad things were, and so now he's going to do something about it. He's going to make his whip. And this shot makes me think, because it's clearly at night, so that means that we'll get the triumphal entry. So backing up a little bit, within the Gospels, the Gospel of Mark makes it clear that Jesus, he does the triumphal entry, he goes into the temple, but then he leaves, and then he comes back the next day, and that's when he does the cleansing of the temple. Whereas the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Matthew, they just have Jesus do the triumphal entry, and then it seems like in the same kind of as kind of the culmination of that, he starts doing the cleansing of the temple. Like it seems like he marches right up to the temple and he does the cleansing. And that's probably not like I doubt if you got Mark and Matthew and Luke all together in the same room that they would actually be disagreeing about the facts. It's probably just kind of Matthew and Luke kind of simplifying kind of the narrative flow. Whereas like Mark is kind of actually probably giving more detail about like what actually happened. But as far as the show's going, you could see a version of things where the cleansing of the temple comes as kind of the climax of the the triumphal entry episode, but it seems like to me that it's probably going to be a separate episode. We'll probably get triumphal entry. That'll kind of be like its own self-contained episode, episode 1, and then episode 2 will be the cleansing of the temple, and that fits with like having it in 2 separate days, so you can kind of distinguish the 2 events. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
I like all that. Sounds good.
Yeah, and then after Jesus actually makes his whip, he heads back to the temple during the day. Once again, we got a lot of commerce happening, people exchanging money, money changers, people buying the goats, and those are the 2 things that the Gospels call out as being kind of the immediate issues that Jesus gets mad at, that causes him to get the whip and start driving people out. It's money changers who were corrupt because they would they basically like do like fees or different like bad exchange rates to kind of prey upon pilgrims who were coming from across the empire, and yeah, just kind of getting a lot of money from them. And then the people who were selling goats, they were both like selling at kind of outrageous prices to people who couldn't afford them, but they needed like a sacrifice for worship. But also, in addition to kind of the corrupt aspect of it, they're also crowding out this whole outer courtyard of the temple is meant to be the court of the Gentiles. And so by like having all these shops set up and all this commerce happening, they're kind of crowding out this court from its primary purpose, which is to be a place where Gentiles who can't go all the way into the temple are still able to worship God and bring their prayers to him. So Jesus kind of highlights both things. He says, you're making my Father's house into a den of thieves, but essentially he says it's supposed to be a house of prayer for all peoples, like for all nations, which is a allusion to some of the prophets. I've got more details in my blog post on the key events of Holy Week if you're interested in kind of all the details. But yeah, just wanted to kind of draw attention to that. Yeah, and then we actually get the Jesus pulling out the whip and doing his Indiana Jones. Like they really made it like a real like whip. Like I feel like most of the time when I see it depicted, it's like some kind of like short, stubby little whip, but they made it like it looks like Indiana Jones, the one that they got him. I didn't get a good image of kind of the size of it, but yeah.
I'm just wondering if there was any significance to the materials he used to make the whip. To do with that. I don't think we have any. There's no indication of that.
I wonder.
Tradition.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be. But within the show, the leather of the whip, I could almost see it being the bridle that he used for his donkey, which the significance of is built up within the show. It's within the show that it said that it belonged to his ancestors who came out of the Exodus. It's the bridle that they used for their donkey as they came out of Egypt, which is supposed to kind of like communicate to us that Jesus, he's leading a second Exodus, which is the bridle isn't something that's like actually there in the Bible, but this idea that Jesus's death and resurrection is a second Exodus, that is definitely a biblical idea. So I could see them.
I would say you're 100% right.
Yeah, and that would also kind of keep that second Exodus theme going, which we're definitely gonna get a lot of Exodus imagery throughout the season. So
here's clearly cutting some piece of leather up. So you have to see him taking. And I thought not that it was unusual, but it was like they are putting emphasis on that bridle to make sure we see that and see it be progressing through the story. So it would just make perfect sense that that's what he uses to tie it all the way back.
Yeah. Yeah, and he'll also like, so episode 1 will have him riding the donkey, so he'll be using the bridle throughout the episode, and then to have him kind of, now that he's done with the donkey, lets the donkey go. He's got this bridle now. What's he going to do with it? Well,
Mhm.
let's turn it into a whip and let's challenge kind of the new pharaoh, which in Jesus's day is not the pharaoh of Egypt. It's the temple authorities that he's going to be challenging. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And then from here we get a transition into what I found to be like, it's easy to kind of gloss over these shots, but I was very intrigued by them. So we got some Roman soldiers bursting into a room. Now this could be from any point within like the season or within one of the episodes. It could be Romans going after. I think that we're gonna. What I'm guessing is we'll get Quintus reintroduced as a centurion in Jerusalem. So it could be like some sort of scene like that. But
Well, then the very next shot is Atticus, though.
that's true. So yeah, it could be Atticus hunting down Simon Z, which again, yeah, this could be kind of just within the main timeline of the episode. I want to come back to this one. I'm going to skip over this for now. Pilate getting worried and mad at stuff. Here's the shot that I'm really interested in. This is clearly the temple on fire, which, yeah, I've been wondering whether we would get a flash forward to the 70 AD destruction of the temple, and this definitely makes it look like that. So for people who aren't kind of up on all the history and stuff, so Jesus' life, mostly it happens in like 33 AD. People debate the exact date, but during during Holy Week, he starts predicting that Jerusalem is going to come under siege by Rome, and he gives a prophecy. There's a lot of debates about that prophecy. That's kind of the focus of one of my posts about the Chosen Season 5 controversy. But at least one sense of the prophecy and the stuff that he talks about is a prediction of how Jerusalem and the temple are going to be destroyed within kind of this generation, which that's the prediction that does come true. 40 years after Jesus dies, there's a Jewish revolt where the people in Jerusalem try to rebel against Rome. Rome comes down on them really hard, destroys Jerusalem, burns the temple down, and it leads to an even more kind of intense diaspora and oppression of the Jewish people, which kind of confirms Jesus's prophecy. So I think this definitely seems to be a flash forward to that scene, which I would guess is going to be probably like an episode intro. Just how we've gotten a couple of flash forwards in some of the other episodes. I think we're gonna get a flash forward to the destruction of the temple, tying into because the cleansing of the temple. A lot of scholars have argued that it's not just that Jesus is like attacking the practices that are going on there, but he's also doing a prophetic sign, and he's basically kind of like telling people like God is gonna drive us out of the temple, like destruction is coming, there's going to be chaos soon, and so the things that he's doing are kind of anticipating the future destruction that's to come. So I think that the temple or the trailer is kind of hinting at that by placing like this shot, which is kind of otherwise out of context, at the end of this whole big build-up scene to the cleansing of the temple. Yeah. Any thoughts, Vic?
That all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
especially we're
even
gonna get some flash forwards, I think. Right. Go ahead.
yeah, even though like I'm not for sure if these scenes could potentially be from a flash forward. Like it could potentially be that like Simon Z is like our point of view character, and we have Romans going after him. I think probably not, but it at least like they're all kind of like building into this sense of like uh, Rome, kind of the danger of Rome and that kind of thing. This I think is more likely to potentially be in that flash forward because we got smoke, so it could potentially be like during the siege. Um, yeah. Okay. This shot. Is that Thomas?
That looks like Thomas.
Is this him getting married? Like this white thing
Well,
here, that looks to me like it could be like a kind of like a wedding, like what do you call those that like kind of like a somewhere between like a hat and like a veil hood thing. Um and you know the woman is shorter. Um so here's my theory on this shot. So it also it's very like reminiscent of the wedding in Cana in season 1, and how kind of the dancing goes in that episode. I think that's Jesus there in the
all
corner.
the way to the right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my theory is that we're going to get Thomas like kind of dreaming about or imagining kind of what could have been with him and Rama, and that's what this shot is going to be. Because like I can't. I think it's possible that season 6 or 7 spoilers. I think it's possible that Rama's going to come back, that she'll be resurrected. So Matthew mentions that at the end of the crucifixion, some of the saints that are buried come out of their graves as a result of Jesus's death and kind of triumphing. But that this is too early for that, and I can't see like Thomas already like meeting someone else and like having a legit marriage. So I couldn't see this being anything other than, yeah, like kind of a imagination sequence or
I
some
don't, I
sort
don't
of.
see any of the other apostles in there either.
That's
I don't see
interesting.
anyone else except for that might. I mean, that might not even be Jesus. It probably is, but
Yeah, it's
I
not
can
for
just
sure.
as easily think it being that everyone in this shot is somebody we don't know.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, but the kind of the coloring on his cloak and stuff and like his beard definitely looks to me like Thomas, but it could be someone else too. Yeah. Yeah, Pilate being mad. Oh wait. Yeah, and then we're back to Last Supper. Yeah, Jesus praying, like he's got his hands raised, eyes looking up into heaven. So probably him. This is probably too early for the high priestly prayer. It's more likely that he's like blessing the bread and giving thanks. Yeah, but I think he's probably praying, even though I know in the voiceover he says like it's the time is almost here, something like that, alluding to the hour of his death. Yeah, and then chosen Last Supper. So made it through. Any final kind of thoughts on the trailer and
Well, just again, it's. I keep on hoping that Jonathan Rumi gets nominated for like best actor for a TV show. Because I mean, he's been killing it all along, but
yep.
I think these next 2 seasons are going to really, it's like just like that last shot where he's just, it's like I can't imagine any other actor being able to just show that kind of angst
Yep.
in his eyes. I mean, he's just got the perfect face for showing all the different levels of emotion that Jesus would be going through at this moment.
Yeah.
It's just a stunning performance.
Yeah, I think that this season has the most likelihood of getting some sort of recognition beyond just like the, like the K-Love Awards or,
Right.
that kind of thing, but like actual like mainstream award recognition. Yeah, both. Like I think Rumi definitely deserves it for on his end, but like I think it helps that it looks like the kind of the production value and the scale of things and the, like I said, the cinematography, kind of having kind of that more complete package, looking like super like professional and just confident. I think that, yeah, it makes it a lot more likely that we could potentially see The Chosen breaking into mainstream awards and actually potentially, if not like getting nominated, not just like getting nominations, but potentially actually getting some actual awards. Yeah, especially just like the subject matter. It's something where, yeah, the Last Supper. It's just such a cultural icon. Kind of even though our culture has become so secular, I feel like, yeah, there might be some kind of appreciation for that. So, well, thanks, Virginia. Appreciate you for saying that. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to kind of look at the trailer and yeah, do some analysis. And yeah, let's hope that season 5 really does get the recognition that it deserves. And
just the fact that USA Today had an article about the release of the trailer, to me, it's like that shows that it's like achieved some level of mainstream acceptance to where they feel that this would be interesting enough to enough people to make it a feature story.
No, it's definitely like season 4, it got so much mainstream media attention, like Hollywood Reporter, Variety, New York Times, yeah, like all of the kind of major magazines were covering season 4, and often like singing praises for it, noting like celebrities who were into it and stuff. So yeah, I definitely think that season 5, like it's got like a ton of like momentum going behind it. So.
And I think it was a brilliant idea to subtitle it "The Last Supper."
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that have heard about this show. Mm-hmm. They don't know where we are in the story, but as soon as you see that, you know exactly where you are. You can jump in right there if you know any kind of basic Jesus storylines. You kind of know, okay, the Last Supper, we're getting close to the end here. I think that'll be an enticing for a lot of people for this to be their jump on point.
Interesting. Someone just posted in the comments that the wedding shot is like a scene where Jesus like wanders into a wedding and blesses a couple. So it sounds like it's just a random couple potentially. So my theory, I guess, might not be correct there. Yeah, I think it would have been cool, but I mean that's interesting. Kind of like that they're gonna kind of draw in kind of the loop of season 1, Jesus goes to a wedding. Season 5, Jesus going to a wedding again just before his death. Yeah, thank you, Vicky, for letting me know that.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to go to Chosen Con, so I didn't see that scene. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, good point, Victor, on that. Yeah, any other thoughts on the trailer or season 5? What's ahead?
I think it's just going to be fascinating to see how they pull this one off.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, once again, if this is like your first interaction with the Bible Artist content, so I've got other stuff on the podcast. Victor and I and our friend Chad, we've done kind of our hypothetical just like construction of a story about David and his outlaw band, but a lot more stuff just on The Chosen itself. So I've got interviews with Elijah Alexander, who's the actor who played Atticus, Kirk Wooler, who's the actor that plays Gaius, interviews with the actress who plays Claudia, Pilate's wife, the actor who plays John the Baptist, David Amito. I'm leaving some other people out as well. So definitely lots of like interviews. I've got kind of a lot of like 1 minute short kind of explainers or theories and stuff like that. And I'm hoping to potentially move into doing some sort of the Chosen in Scripture Bible study series where I kind of look through some biblical passages and kind of either if I'm looking at season 5, kind of look at a passage and then think through what the Chosen might do as it's adapting that passage and some of the challenges and things like that. Or if I'm looking back on stuff from previous seasons, kind of looking at the passage and discussing what they actually did. So I'm kind of in the process of figuring that out, but that might start, potentially in December or in the new year. And so, lots of content on the podcast channel and even more content on the blog. That's kind of, the blog is really more of the bread and butter. I've got reviews and analysis of all the episodes from season 4 and season 3, Bible studies from each episode of the entire show, kind of stuff on different characters, different controversies, all that kind of stuff. So definitely check out the blog if you are into Chosen stuff. And also, just let me know, if there's any other stuff that you're interested in me doing, either podcast wise or on the blog as well.
Bible Artist in general is great for if you have any interest in the cross section of entertainment or creativity in the Bible. So I think we both agree that it's very important that people use their creative abilities to present God's word. I think that's one of the reasons why we're given talents we have, is in order to present some of this stuff in ways that resonates with people. So I think it's important for us to hold a lot of these shows not accountable, but like let's hold them to a high level of like, let's let them be as good as the best Hollywood stuff. And The Chosen definitely counts for that. And I think we're seeing an uptick in quality and faith-based content across the board that I think it very much needs.
Yep. Well, thank you, Victor, for sharing that. It's been really fun to explore that space of kind of the intersection of biblical studies and content and kind of entertainment and movie analysis and things like that. So, and thanks for jumping on. It was a lot of fun to look at that trailer, and excited to, I'm sure we'll be getting more trailers as we get closer to April. So thanks for joining. Thanks everybody for listening, and Godspeed.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.